Welcome to Nicstalgia, the pop culture podcast where we have deep conversations about superficial things. I'm your host, Nicole Tremaglio, and each week my guests and I deep dive on the parts of pop culture that made them who they are today. If you like the show, please follow, rate, and review on your platform of choice. Watch us on YouTube and Spotify, and subscribe to our super fun newsletter at nicstalgia.substack.com. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nicstalgia. I have not one, but two amazing guests with me today, Jocelyn and Alaina. They are from Bijou Candles, and they also have an amazing podcast where they talk all about pop culture too. And so I have brought them here with me today so that we can have some fun discussions about what has made them who they are. I want to hear more about their candles and the inspirations behind them. And we're just going to have a lot of fun today. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. Very exciting.
This is so fun. Thank you. So you have both a podcast and a candle company. I kind of want to hear about how pop culture inspired you to create both and kind of like what came first and how it all came together.
Sure. Alaina, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we basically started with, okay, we want to get into the candle sphere. We're really into home decor. We're really into home fragrance. And as we were designing the candles, Alaina was actually the one that was like, I keep referring to each of these fragrances as like she smells like this, da 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 da. And then we were like, they really have like these personalities. And we kind of juxtaposed our love for pop culture and our love for all things that like smell good and like kind of designing these like nostalgic collections around, you know, things from history or pop culture, movies, whatever. And that sort of was like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Like, this is how we're going to put all of our passions together into one thing. And then the podcast was just sort of like a natural thing that, you know, once we were, you know, coming out with the different collections and explaining everything, we were like, let's talk about this more. We need more space than just Instagram or TikTok. Like, we got to sit down and like talk about like the whole vibe here. Like, we did deep dives where we talked about like Dolly, and then we did like,
it started with the deep dives.
Yes. On like, that was like our first season of the Candle Coven Podcast, was like talking about Stevie Nicks, telling you all about her history, telling you all about Cher. And then we were like, all right, now let's talk about the bodies of work. So now we're doing campfires. We watch like movies and then like talk all about it.
This is just like what we do anyway. Like, we always refer to ourselves as like bedroom gays, because like when we were growing up, like I was just in my room all the time consuming anything I could get my hands onto because it just felt like safe. And so yeah, I guess that like translated into what we put out now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so fun because there's so many different places that you could get information, and it's almost like an information overload, right? It's like, I think when we think of the younger generation, like, oh, couldn't they just look on Wikipedia or whatever? Because that emerged during our time as this source of truth. Whereas now it's like there's so many different videos explaining all of these different perspectives. And it's not as cohesive as when we could just turn on Fleetwood Mac behind the music.
Like, we were all watching the same stuff. It's crazy. And now like there's so much to choose from, and like they have so much access to so much niche information too. Like, they can get really granular with like what they're into.
I think that's really interesting too, because I feel like the younger generations, because of exactly what you said, because there's so much more information in like even nicher topics, that there's this sort of like generalized pop culture knowledge is no longer a thing. It's people have like their niche, you know, faves and things that they're obsessed with, and maybe like missed like things that we had no choice what we consumed as children, because what was on TV, what movies were out, they were out. Now you can kind of seek and find whatever you want. So now it's like kind of fun to go back and be like, so we all saw this movie, right? Like we all saw, remember we all, you know what I mean? It doesn't really it necessarily exist like that anymore. It's sort of like we're kind of all consuming in our own little worlds of what's,
Right.
the content that's out there.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the two very different, but also maybe exactly the same pieces of pop culture that shaped who you are today. One of them being Seinfeld, one of them being Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I would like you guys to explain, maybe for someone who is far in one camp or the other, what it is and how you think that they could actually be similar, even if on the surface they were in two completely different corners of pop culture.
Interesting. Well, do you want to go first, Miss Seinfeld?
Well, I think Seinfeld could be really applied to anything, which is the reason why I think it's like so important to me. It's like my mother and my father and my grandparents. It's like my caretaker. Like it was there for me my whole life. It's always been on in the background playing. It's just like, it's just a constant in my life. And the way that like Larry David specifically, I'm not like a huge Jerry Seinfeld fan, but I'm a big Larry David fan. The way that he's able to dissect the minutia of life and really point out the absurdity of everything that humans do is very comforting to me. It makes me feel seen. And I think that with that lens could be put on anything. Like it's almost like a philosophy in a way. Like, and I think it's inspired so much work since it came out. Like there's so many other like comedies or anything really that harkens back to like the structure or like how Seinfeld was put together. But in terms of Rocky Horror, like I do think there is like that absurdity factor to it, you know?
I was literally going to just like snowball. So mine is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is like kind of like you said, like, oh, my mother, my father, da, da, da. Like my mom was in like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, like kind of like culty kind of thing, like in the late 70s, 80s when it came out in like 75. She would go with her friends and dress up and go to the midnight showing. So when I was in first grade, she goes, listen, I got to show you my favorite thing. And
Listen,
you can't,
you're old enough
you
now.
can't tell anybody at school. I was like 6. And I'm like, all right. But I saw this movie and I was like, that's a bit of me. This is like outside of the norm. And it felt like I don't know, I felt understood by the Rocky Horror Picture Show at age 6. It was just like, this isn't the normal thing. And it's like, a little bit more of like subversive culture, a little more alternative. And again, points out the absurdity of, society in some ways. And that to me was like, oh, okay, I'm into this. Like, what is this like, all about?
It's also like, when you do agree with like people about certain things that you like Rocky Horror or Seinfeld, it is like, a hug.
Yes.
Like, oh, I see.
Like we get each other.
We're on the same page. Like,
exactly.
Yes. It's like when people have a Jeep and they like honk at each other.
Yeah, the Jeeps.
Jeeples. Jeeples. Exactly.
Yes. I know. I love that. And I think that people often do look to culture to either be a part of it or to subvert it for both of those purposes. And I always think about what actually an astrologer told me once, where she said, you're going to have to decide what basically is the lesser of two evils, whether that is standing out and feeling alone and feeling like, well, maybe I'm a little different, or I like something a little bit different than everyone else, or maybe this mainstream is what I fit into, but I'm not satisfied with it. Whether that loneliness of standing out or that kind of emptiness of fitting in. And I think about this so much of like for example, in high school, I was like the dELiA's girl.
Oh, I love it. The best.
Which, the
so
best.
Good.
And, but also I was mostly the Hollister girl, and we all wore Hollister and Abercrombie.
Yeah.
But
what a dark store. It was so dark in there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my,
Hollister was so dark.
Yeah, you had lamp.
You did. You needed like one of those hard hats, like with the like literal like mining helmet. But yeah. You're a dELiA's girl in a Hollister world, and you're like, oh, but I like this emo music, and I'm super into MySpace, and my friends were in bands, and at that time I so did not identify as an emo kid or as any kind of like alternative group, because when you're that age and you're really exploring like what does belonging and acceptance mean, and those kind of back to your identity themes have been like my life's work in exploring. It's really interesting how it's like
so interesting.
We do have so many different parts of who we are, and it's so layered.
We're so complex.
Totally. And it's so interesting too, because I think in that time too, when it's like, you're the dELiA's girl, you're the Limited 2 girl, you're the this girl. Like, I literally remember being in middle school and getting made fun of because I hadn't made the transition from Limited 2 to Abercrombie yet. Like, she still wears Limited 2. I was 11 years old.
We're going to hold on to Limited 2 for dear life.
Oh my God.
Now they're all so mad that they made the switch so fast.
But it's so true though, because it's like, I love like kind of like fun poppy, I mean, look at these colors stuff, but I'm also like dark as hell. I love dark shit. Like, you know what I mean? So like you said, it doesn't necessarily, how I choose to represent myself doesn't necessarily go with what I'm into. So it is so nice when you can connect with people and be like, oh wait, you're into Rocky Horror too? Or like, oh, you're into this too? Like, oh, we can connect on this. Like, at the end of the day, like, pop culture is human connection, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something really interesting that I think about too is the idea of shared memory. And so this happens with me and my sister all the time, where we were literally just walking down the street the other day and we saw 2 cars over the course of our walk. And I was like, remember when mom had that car? Remember when dad had that car? And I'm like, thank God this person who I've been with since the day she was on earth is here, so that I could feel satisfied knowing that someone else remembers the cars.
We literally talk about this. We've had this conversation because Jocelyn has a younger sister as well. And like the fact that she exists to kind of corroborate a lot of things is like very, healing.
We have each other as like witness for the prosecution.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm interested because you guys are married.
Yes.
And so what memories did you have on your own that you brought to the other partner where you were like, wait, I don't remember that? Or what was one thing you did come together and you were like, you like that too? Because we all think we grew up in these like individual experiences.
Totally.
And with the monoculture, we so didn't.
No. The collective consciousness is legit.
Collective consciousness, yeah.
That's such an interesting thing.
It's so funny because we always talk about how our upbringings were so different, but there's so many similarities.
A lot of the same tropes, for sure.
Yeah, but like, you know, on paper, it's completely different.
I think something that's different. Well, we obviously like a lot of the same stuff, and that's like something that we definitely connected on. We actually met because we were both put by separate people onto this all-girls improv team. So inherently, we have a lot in common because we're in the comedy scene and we're like the same kind of thing. But something that sticks out for me that's a little bit different, and it's something we kind of just touched upon, is Alaina likes pop music, like the poppiest, almost like hardcore, like the way that you treat pop music, where it's like it's and you're just like exactly. And like I like that too, but
like it's metal to me.
Yes, exactly. And like I like that too, but I also have this like side of me that's like, I want to listen to Fiona Apple and Radiohead, and you like those things too, but like it's sort of like the coming together of like, do we want to listen to stuff that's deep and like emotional?
I don't ever want to get deep.
No,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, I'm always trying to have a good time.
Right. And I kind of like
I'm a
do
Cancer,
both.
so I like need to. I'm not too emotional to listen to that shit.
I get that. And like I'm a Capricorn, so I'm like, let's self-flagellate a little bit more.
Yeah. But I mean, when we first got together, there were definitely like so many nights we're just laying around listening to music. We both like love Radiohead so much.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
I think, yeah. I mean, it's like the classics. We both love Clueless. We love Drop Dead Gorgeous. Like we have all like the same kind of similar movies and TV that we love together, and we have very similar senses of humor, if not like the same.
Right. At this point.
Yeah, right. So we definitely, like, the first few months of us being together was just us like holed up watching stuff, like, you know, getting to know each other's likes and stuff, which was very fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of like literally just like listening to music and
a lot of Kate
so
Bush.
cheesy, but yes,
a lot of Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. We used to have phases too where like after like a drunken night out, we would come in and do like the only way we could get to do like all our skincare and floss while still being like drunk is to like pick something to listen to. So we listened to like the Sundays for a long time.
Yeah, big time on the Sundays.
Come home and just be like drunk, like flossing. There's like all these like little culture moments to help us like get through our routine.
We had a phase where we would come home also and binge the Babysitters Club TV show.
Oh my god, there's nothing
or
like
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Big Are You Afraid of the Dark fans like that. The Snick nostalgia. Oh
yeah,
bring it back.
So good.
Yeah, I enjoyed Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is almost surprising to me because when I was a kid, I was a big scaredy cat. So
they're scary.
I didn't even like going to Blockbuster and seeing scary movie covers.
You know what? Like, same.
Hellraiser?
Pinhead really scared me. Yeah,
I knew it. And we were all, like, what is the cultural impact of Pinhead? We hadn't actually watched Hellraiser, like, all the way through or even, like, at all until recently. And honestly...
because I was always too scared.
Well, and I watched it and I was like, this is gross.
It was disgusting.
But iconic.
So, I loved it.
That's amazing. I've never seen it. There are so many things
I've
never seen because they were simply too scary. And well, nowadays with true crime and everything, I'm like, honestly, bless you if you haven't been traumatized enough by your real life to listen to and absorb true crime.
Yes,
that's good for you.
Seriously.
But now when people are like, well, I don't like horror per se. I prefer a psychological thriller.
Thrillers.
And that I just say I am psychologically thrilled enough. Thank you very much.
That's a fair reply. That is fair. It's so interesting.
I get my thrills in everyday life.
It's so funny because we obviously, I love mystery. I love to be thrilled. I love all those things. But we actually had like a thing in the last year where we're like, we have to be careful with all the content we're consuming because whether or not you realize it, it does affect you. For sure.
Yeah.
So like
the body keeps score.
Absolutely. Like all the true crime, all the hardcore political podcasts, we had to cool it because even though we like intellectually understand, there's like that emotional reaction that you have when you're hearing all these things that it does over time stress you out.
Her eyes were cut out. Her legs were cut off. Her hands were cut off. Like,
my sister just showed me a video the other day, and it was like a true crime podcaster transitioning into an ad. And it's like, use the code, like, decompose body for 20% off. I'm like, this is gone too far.
I'll never forget that.
Code decomp. I can't.
/ murder.
# body farm.
Yeah. Like, this is absolutely obscene.
We're so desensitized, aren't we?
I know, and I think that's the thing too. It's like when we were kids, people were like, "Oh, there's so much violence on TV." Like that was kind of like this this moral battle,
right?
Where identity politics came into play because we wanted to protect the children from what's on the television,
right?
And now
they're always trying to protect the children, aren't they?
Now it's just little screens instead of big screens.
Yeah, which is even more insidious.
Like it's real life instead of make believe too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I still have to find some, or not find, but just curate a better playlist for myself of calm music. I remember once I was with friends and they're like, "Oh, what should we?" What music should we put on? I like put on Britney Spears, and they're like, no.
And then you're like, please leave.
Who says no?
I was like, wait. Now I'm coming to terms with what I consider calming.
Now you're like, this is the loneliness I'm talking about.
I was like, wait, when you say meditative, I was thinking like Every Time by Britney Spears.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, from the bottom of my broken heart.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
I'm also a huge Celine Dion stan.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You said the magic
She
words.
was the last concert that we saw before COVID. It was like the day before COVID.
Really?
Where?
Yes.
Where did you see her?
In East Rutherford.
Oh, that's so funny. We were at Barclays Lay?
Yeah.
I think you probably saw her like the same week that we did.
Same few days,
It was like March 9th or something, and then it was like shut down. And I was like, I was just at the Barclays. Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my God, see, look, a shared experience. So we entered.
I feel so much better.
We entered lockdown, and we had just come off of crying from "My Heart Will Go On." It was like sobbing.
Yeah, I actually have seen her twice in concert. The first time was when I went on a work trip it was September 30th, 2015. Picture it,
Wow.
Las Vegas. And,
the Vegas one.
Yes, and so I bought a ticket. It was $108, which I thought was like pretty good.
That's a steal.
It was the balcony, but it was the first row.
Oh,
my thing about seats is that I like the first row.
Yeah,
because then no one's head is in front of me.
Yeah,
and I just sat there. I laughed. I cried. I sang. I was like profusely sobbing for 4 hours.
I mean, it's a spiritual experience. It is.
Yeah, she's such the greatest showman.
You know what, guys?
Truly.
Pop culture can be a spiritual experience.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. How many times have you been out at a concert or a movie or whatever when you just feel connected to everyone?
Like I almost cried during John Wick 4.
Which we just watched last night, which was great.
I'm not kidding.
She's absolutely not. She loves John Wick.
Nick, you have like such a good memory.
Those dates.
Yeah, and the dollar amount.
I don't know. Well, I was going to say I don't know why. I actually know exactly why I have such a good memory, and it's because that's how my dad is. He remembers absolutely everything, has an encyclopedic knowledge of sports and of music, and has actually been an absolutely huge influence on me with pop culture, because up until I was 7, and I think that is why Celine Dion and Spice Girls are so important to me, is because those were like the first things that I discovered on my own.
Yes.
And
Spice Girls, I feel like for a lot of us feels that way. Spice Girls, and for, like you said, comforting music and meditative, I feel like Spice Girls is always a good time for Spice Girls. It is so soothing to me. Comforting.
And there's so many different moods. Like there's so many options. Like, you know, they have such different kinds of songs.
And also just to talk about what you were saying, like about like you get it from your dad. It's so interesting because even parenting and the way that we're parented is like passing down your pop culture onto your children. Like how my mom was like, listen, I'm a big weirdo and I'm into weirdo stuff. Are you a weirdo too? And I passed the test. Because I was.
Yeah.
But like it really is like the passing of the baton of like we're this family. Like my family's a Steely Dan family. Like so it's like passing the baton of the culture, and it becomes part of your lore, part of your family's culture. So it totally comes from our parents and our sisters and brothers or whatever, for sure.
Yeah, I
Did you
go ahead?
I was going to ask if you found Celine in Titanic, or was it before that?
No, it was because of Titanic, and that song was just kind of absolutely everywhere. And so it was my 8th birthday party where I actually got the Let's Talk About Love CD.
Incredible.
And I've been going through a physical media renaissance because I'm just like,
that's so good.
I don't know. Now it's a little different once you start kind of thrifting stuff and you realize how easily accessible some stuff still is. It makes some of the excitement go away. However, I went to this book sale a few months ago and they had thousands of CDs, and I'd just never seen these CDs in years, and they had a Let's Talk About Love CD. So I bought it, and my mom's like, you're just buying a CD that you already had and got rid of. And I'm like, that's so not the point.
Right. They tricked us.
But
no,
yes,
but that's
they did.
You're so good, because like in who knows how many years this is going to go down. We probably won't have internet. I don't know what's going to happen. But we're all going to go to your house so we can watch and listen to Celine Dion on the hard copy.
I regret.
Because like I don't know how they convinced us to get rid of everything we owned, and now we just subscribe to stuff. It's like they bamboozled us
Alaina,
again.
Do you remember when I got rid of all those CDs in the last like 5 years?
Yeah,
I had been lugging around this book, and like you guys, we're talking like a foot brick.
You know, the classic front seat, CD
250 CD holder. I had it chock full. I've been lugging it around to several different apartments over the course of 15 years. And finally I was like, I got to get rid of these CDs. And I did. And I regret it because but I also don't have a CD player. So that would help.
My current, so I get like completely fixated on things. And so my current fixation is this icy blue clear CD player by Memorex that I'm pretty sure I had the exact one, if not one similar. And if I wanted to buy it on eBay with shipping and everything, it'd probably be about $50, which, you know, if you think about, am I just buying like a 25, 30-year-old CD player for $50?
Right.
Right.
I don't want that part of my brain to be speaking up. I want the part to be like, this is kitsch. It's niche.
I will be that part of your brain, and I will
quirky.
say, spend that $50 on it.
I'm probably the second that we're done talking gonna buy it because I've been thinking about it, and when I can't stop thinking about it, I have to. I already know where I'm gonna put it. It's gonna be on my little, you know, television stand with all of my CDs.
Yes,
I love that.
Even like, so you guys saw my vinyl behind me, and I told you that this is the wall that raised me. And so we have an eclectic mix. Most people would be like, wait, why is the, you know,
no, it makes total sense.
Alternative band live next to Britney Spears?
It makes total sense.
But it makes total sense. And it's just like, and granted, like Hot Space by Queen, it's not even like in their top 5. It's more
right. It's so
like
funny.
A purely aesthetic choice.
Yeah.
But like,
good call. Yeah.
Right, but like these are the pieces of us that come together, and the like being a Spice Girl is just I was like, oh, I'm millennial sporty Spice because this is just always going to be my personality. And I am also, in addition to talking to fellow Celine Dion stans, I'm talking to fellow Mel C Heads. I couldn't be happier.
Throw respect on
also,
Mel C's
she
name.
is also a Capricorn, which I love.
Yes. Wait, what's your sign, Nick?
I love a Capricorn.
I'm an Aries.
Oh my God, yes, Aries.
My mom is an Aries.
Molly's an Aries.
So we have an Aries sun, Cancer moon, Leo rising, and then we have Mercury Aries, and then we have a Venus and Mars in Aquarius.
Ooh,
so just to round it all out.
That is a fun chart. I love that.
Thank you.
Oh
so why do you love Mel C?
So I first loved her because she was the best at singing. And she was seemingly the most
so
talented.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she's talented. She can sing. She can dance. She could do a back handspring, which I really wanted
She's
to
a gymnast.
learn how to do
She's like a gymnast. And she was like musical theater trained. So she was giving you lights, camera, action every single take. She hits all the high notes. She does all the belting. She really holds the Spice Girls together. Like, she is the glue, for sure.
She has a tribal tattoo around her arm. So cool. She has a gold tooth.
A gold tooth.
I love it.
I've been secretly, not so secretly, wanting a gold tooth right there, just like Mel C. I'm just like, how cool is a pop star with a gold tooth? I'm just obsessed with her.
Love her. She gets her whole ass.
Yeah, I feel like people, like I always had really, really long, like black hair. And so to see her with her like extreme high pony, I don't know why people who had similar hair to me growing up, I was
totally
just like,
they like categorize us by hair for some reason.
Right. Well, because if you had red hair, you were ginger. If you had blonde hair, you were baby. And it's like, you know, well, not every friend group has like someone with red hair. But,
perfectly, you can perfectly attribute to the Spice Girls, right?
Did you guys ever like play Spice Girls? And if so, who did you play as?
Yeah, well, me and my best friend would fight over who was Sporty Spice. And so if I lost, I would have had to be baby. But it's great. But then also my friend, which I don't think I was aware of astrology when I was like 6. I think when I was in middle school, I became interested in astrology, and I had a silver Aries nameplate necklace that I recently rebought at a Claire's because I'm like, I need to. I
love it.
But yeah, that friend was a Capricorn too. So now looking back, I'm like, you know what? She was more like Sporty Spice. I'm definitely more like Posh Spice. Also, Posh Spice is an Aries, and Spice World, she is so funny. Like
she's the funny one.
This dress is dry clean only, Melanie. I mean,
she's got all the. She's from Essex.
Did you guys ever see? Well, I know you have
the Gab,
the Coming to America series when she and David Beckham were like coming to LA, and they did like a little docu-series.
For the LA Galaxy.
She is so funny in this little documentary. It is pure comedy. She is in on the joke. I love Posh Spice. Like whenever if
you like watch, sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say whenever I would play like Spice Girl dress up, I was either Ginger because I was the older sister, so I was like the bossy one, and everyone I think knows that Ginger was a little bit bossy, or Posh Spice just because I thought she was so funny.
Yeah, like all the interviews with the group, she's like the one talking.
She does, right?
She's like so funny,
but she hates to sing.
Can you blame her?
Well, Mel C was saying how like Victoria's not bad at singing.
No.
It's just she just doesn't.
She doesn't like it.
She doesn't want to.
No.
Yeah,
she wants to do the catwalk.
Yeah,
exactly.
right. And like all of them except I think Jerry was the only one that like didn't have prior like pre-professional dance training.
Right. Yeah, I think they all kind of came from like they were like at musical theater college or whatever it was that they university. Right. I don't know.
Do you guys have a favorite scene from Spice World that you remember? Because I watch it like fairly often and think.
Where do you watch it? Do you have a hard copy?
Yeah, I have a DVD.
Wait, I actually.
We're coming over.
I know we need a hard copy.
Over because I have actually. I don't want to. Oh, it won't mess up my thing too much. I have the 10-year anniversary.
Oh my god!
It is glittery and like holographic.
The fact that you had that to hand makes me so happy, Nick. I'm obsessed. Wait. I was just gonna say one funny thing about Spice World is that there's actually quite a bit of Rocky Horror Picture Show overlap because Meatloaf is the bus driver and Meatloaf is in Rocky Horror. And then the guy who
Is it Riff Raff in it?
Riff Raff, the guy, Richard O'Brien, who wrote the Rocky Horror Picture Show, he plays the creepy paparazzi guy who keeps like popping up like the bald guy. He wrote Rocky Horror and he's in, it's like one of the only other movies he's in. He's not in like a lot of movies.
A scene that is absolutely blazoned into my hippocampus is when the bus jumps over the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my
and
favorite.
it's like a toy.
Okay, guys, what about the alien scene?
Oh my god.
And that is such an iconic, campy, amazing, like B-movie science fiction moment.
Right.
I think it's
how
so
good is
referential.
Alan Cumming too?
Alan Cumming
has been with us in everything.
But he was in the same year, Spice World, and my other favorite movie of the 90s that you already know what I'm going to say, Romy and Michele.
Yep. I mean,
you guys dressed up as them and made me very happy.
Oh yeah. Well, we did the Romy and Michele candle line. So we have a Romy and Michele candle set. And so of course we had to do Romy and Michele as a movie campfire for the podcast. And we were like, we're dressing up. Because another thing about us is we love to dress up. We love Halloween. We love drag. Mm-hmm. We love cosplay. It's another way to express and show our love for pop culture is by, the details and trying to get it as accurate as possible. And that's a huge part of it for us as well.
I love that so much. Not saying that one of you has to be Romy and one has to be Michele, but who do you identify more closely with?
I'm the Romy for sure.
I'm the Michele.
Yeah.
I'm the dumb one.
I'm the Mary.
Oh, okay.
No,
so
just
Alaina,
kidding.
That makes Alaina the Rhoda.
She's absolutely not.
I'm the Mary.
Yeah. Billy, put your mother on the phone.
So I love Romy and Michele so much, but probably one of my very top favorite shows that you've also done candles of is Golden Girls. So who do you identify with from Golden Girls?
So I think
I feel like...
Oh, go ahead, Lay.
I was going to say that I think everyone is usually a mix of at least two Golden Girls.
You could do your Sun, Moon, and Rising if you want for
there you go.
What do you think?
I feel like I'm like a Sophia Rose crossover.
I love that. Because you're like a bitch, but you're also just so cute.
I'm also dumb as hell. So I'm a dumb bitch.
I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a pop culture shop called Purple Banana, and she did the head from Figure It Out. Remember,
oh my God!
Yes, Figure It Out with Summer Sanders.
Yes, Summer Sanders, and it's the Figure It Out head, and you know how it had all the little words that people would have to fill in, and it's like world record for dumbest bitch. I'm like,
oh, I love it. I love that.
So funny. None of those ever made sense.
The figure it out, all those
Figure
shows.
it out. Yeah, they made no sense.
In the 90s, the shows that we had didn't make sense, and none of the toys actually worked. They were just selling stuff to us, and nothing worked. In the commercials, they're like, look, it turns to blue. It did not. Whatever it was,
they would think that
didn't work.
By the time you got the ties off, we lost interest, they would think.
Oh my God, getting something out of the box, that was half the battle.
Yeah.
But truly.
Wait, what Golden Girls are you? Jocelyn.
Oh, me?
And Nick.
Yeah. I think I'm like kind of a Dorothy with
Dorothy.
a Sophia Rising and a Rose Moon. I'm going to go with that.
No Blanche?
I'm not a Blanche.
Yeah.
Because
Blanches are hard to come by.
I think I'm the Blanche.
Are you the Blanche?
I'm Blanche. Maybe
Blanche and Aries
with a little Sophia.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
fiery,
good.
spicy.
I would definitely tell you like fully my story, like picture it, Sicily.
Picture this. You've already said it. Yeah.
I did say it, and it popped into my head, being like, "Shit, I'm gonna ask them about Golden Girls in like 20 minutes." From
Amazing.
Now.
That works.
Let me just.
It does.
Let's just see if it goes unnoticed. But yes, that's who I would be. I think Blanche is just so funny. I actually, my last bedroom had the big. It wasn't Monstera, like the banana leaf kind of motif on my pillowcases, and it looks exactly like Blanche's room.
I love it.
Like,
their decor was so good.
Their
outfits were so good.
When you get to see their bedrooms too, they were designed so perfectly. Their bed linens, everything was like the cream of the crop for like the early 90s. And it's so funny because their
lanai
and my grandmother's like house, which was like her retirement house, was all pink, just like that early 90s vibe. Like they went from the 80s to the early 90s and everybody had pink houses, and I loved it.
My only qualm was their kitchen island is like in the middle of the kitchen, but I think that's just for shooting purposes.
It's for the live studio audience.
Yeah, it's the live studio audience.
Yeah, and how they would always sit down to eat the cheesecake, and then it would immediately cut to something else.
Right?
Yeah.
And did you know?
We don't eat food on
We don't
TV.
eat this, yeah.
And also, they only could allow for 3 seats at the table because of the fourth wall. So if you ever see all 4 of them, someone is either standing or sitting on a different chair in the back.
Right.
It's a 3-seater.
I love that. Okay, I have one last question for you guys, and that would be if you had your own Jocelyn candle set of 3 or Alaina candle set of 3, what would the scents be?
Like who they'd be named after or the actual fragrances?
Either or both.
Oh my God. Okay, so it's kind of like your Mount Rushmore, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think I would have like Kate Bush, which I already have a Kate candle, but like Kate Bush, David Bowie, and oh my God, this is going to be so hard. Judy Garland. I'm just picking because I like.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, no, that's good.
And I also have a Judy Garland candle.
Oh, Judy or Liza?
Ooh, I think I have to go with Judy because it's like a chicken or the egg.
Yeah, like the egg is in Judy already.
Judy,
anyway.
yeah, Judy is Liza.
Yeah.
And I have to say, for me personally, like as far as fragrances are concerned, all of them are going to have neroli in it because it's my favorite scent note. It's like kind of orange blossomy. And so all of them are going to have neroli based scents. Probably like musky, smoky, like kind of bright, but also a little bit of darkness, which is like my personality, I think, as well. How about you, Alaina?
Nice. Ugh, like gun to my head. Okay, I'm not going to say that these are like my favorite of all time, but it's my favorite that I can think of right now. And it might just be my favorite of all time. I'm going to go Britney. Mm-hmm. I love Carly Rae Jepsen.
Yeah.
She's a big Carly girl.
I'm a big Carly head. And I love Kylie Minogue. So I'm going to go those 3. And they're going to smell like sleepy dog feet.
Oh, the best corn smell.
That's like my favorite smell.
Oh my God.
How about you, Nick? What's on your Mount Rushmore?
I think, see, I want to put Mariah Carey, but would she play well with the other people on the mountain?
Yes.
I don't know.
It depends.
As long
Is
as
it Divas Live?
As long as you put her good side showing, then I think she'll be.
The thing about Mariah is she does respect her elders.
She doesn't really like Celine Dion. So I know. So it's a little bit challenging. But you know what's funny is that Mariah is an Aries Sun Cancer Moon like me, and Celine is an Aries Sun Leo Rising like me.
Very
and I'm
interesting.
Like, wow, I think it's like Judy and Liza.
You're the Venn diagram
Celine
of them.
And Mariah. Like I feel like as much as I don't feel like I'm a particularly diplomatic person, nor do I want to mediate anything between them, but I feel like if I had to, I could.
I feel like
why doesn't Mariah like Celine?
Because at VH1 Divas, when Celine was, doing her thing and getting really into it, covering Aretha Franklin, who was also an Aries, I think Mariah thought that it was a little bit like
too much
disrespectful, and like trying to steal her thunder, as stated in Mariah Carey's memoir that came out. Very good read.
That's something I wish I could do more, was read the memoirs.
Well, this might so I just kind of threw all of my stuff into a cabinet, so hopefully as I take this out with one hand, it all doesn't come like completely spilling out. However,
this is so impressive.
I do have one more thing at hand, a celebrity memoir that's very, very important that I highly recommend to everyone if they haven't read it already. Mel C.
No way! Yeah.
The sporty one.
I'm obsessed.
Now I'm going through a book thing too.
Unbelievable.
I had no
That's
books.
fucking amazing.
I only had Spice Girls CD and now 7 CD. So now I've been buying a few books.
I'm obsessed.
Ones,
oh my god.
Yes, so that's that. Okay, anyway, so maybe I would do some combination of Celine, Mariah, Mel C, because I love her way too much. And okay, so I'm glad we literally discussed like all of my favorite people today. And Brittany, but I would just I can't give one answer.
It's too
Freddie
hard.
Mercury would definitely be up there for me. If there was literally one person, it would be him. And then
that's such a good one.
Very Nicstalgic sense. One would be some kind of like orange or even like lime. I love orange and lime smells, and it would be like the orange drink at middle school dances.
Yeah.
That's where like the orangey would be inspired.
Kind of like an effervescent sun-kissed moment.
Definitely, yes. And like a little like sparkly, shimmery moment. Tropical Splash Barbie was a Barbie that I had when I was a kid, and I've literally Googled like perfume that smells like Tropical Splash Barbie because I've been trying to find that smell again ever since.
I'm gonna have to look this up because I'm extremely intrigued.
We're gonna have to get on that.
We're gonna have to do that because it's extremely important, and it's just a scent that like has forever lived in my nose. And I also love the smell of coffee and coffee beans. There used to be this store in the mall where you would walk by and it just smelled like coffee beans. Yeah. And the reason that we would walk by that store is to get to the pretzel store.
Auntie Anne's, right?
I love Auntie Anne's. I'm from Connecticut, so our regional mall pretzel place was called Pretzel Time.
Yeah, we're aware of Pretzel Time.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank God. Okay. Thank God. Now it's Pretzel Maker, which I'm like, okay, fine, like corporate legalities.
I prefer time. I prefer
but I'm going to call you Pretzel Time.
Yeah.
Because it's always Pretzel Time. So it would smell like coffee beans, or it could even smell like Pretzel Time.
It's the best.
Nick, like, what has gotten you so into like going back and collecting all this nostalgia stuff? It's like pretty incredible.
Thank you. So there was this site called Flick Editorial that I wrote a piece for in 2020, basically being like, I went back to 1997 to like cope with everything that's going on right now.
That was the best year.
And I've honestly always been like this. Like, I've always been nostalgic. I've always been like, my thing is I love knowing about people. Like, I love knowing all of their like weird little quirks and their interests and their likes and their dislikes. I like curating them a playlist and knowing what songs they would like and which songs they wouldn't like. I love, again, like the identity thing is just what completely drives me, that like desire to bring people together and make them feel like a part of something. And have this awareness about like who we are, why we do what we do.
Right.
Yes.
And
it's like a way of communication.
I feel like that's our ethos for our business even. Like, we completely agree on that. Like, that's exactly right. It's like how in a time where things kind of feel disconnected, like there are ways that we all connect and all agree. And it's kind of nice to like kind of explore those things and actually connect with people over it. Like, even just starting like our business and the podcast, the way that we've connected with people on like Instagram and TikTok, and I chat with people all day long that are like-minded, and it's just so nice. We share like emotional moments coupled in with these kind of tongue-in-cheek moments, and it's a great thing. It's actually like a really nice community. The Nicstalgia community on Instagram is a great community.
Truly. I think too, it's like when you see a CD and it's 50 cents and you're like, okay, that's not a big barrier. And I think now that I live in Connecticut now. I used to live in New York where I couldn't even like fit a CD in my apartment. Like I had no extra room.
Right.
So I think now it's like, okay, you know, this little thing, even if I use it as a decoration, even if I use it as a coaster, which I actually have, none of them are in my reach right now, but I have coasters that I went to a craft fair once and this guy had repurposed old CDs and put a cork backing on them.
Genius.
So I use them as coasters. So now I use Britney Spears' first CD as a coaster, and I look at it and I'm like, why get a regular dumb coaster when I can have this extremely inspiring Britney Spears coaster?
Completely agree.
That's the thing. I love that because like I do find inspiration in those little things as well. Like when you look at like the little gems around the house that you surround yourself with, like it is nice to have them kind of remind you of certain things, and like that's part of the reason why our candles are what they are. It's like a little bit of a nod to that.
Exactly. Know? You're like, wait a minute, is that a Britney Spears candle? And like, or you're like looking at something and you're like, wait, do you mean Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And like it looks like it, and you're like, oh, cool candle, but it's like it's about something. It's the juxtaposition of like kind of chicer home decor and the pop culture stuff that we loved as kids. So I totally get that, and I would love to have CD coasters. That would go great in our apartment, actually.
Yeah, it's all about those tiny pieces, all of those things that you've crossed paths with along the way that make you who you are, and that, you know, reinforcing that sense of identity is one thing, where someone looks at the mirror I have or the pillow I have and they're like, oh my God, that's so Nick. Like that's the biggest compliment to me, because it allows you to just like be secure in what you want, who you are. But also, I mean, to, I guess, full circle connect it back to Seinfeld, like it's the absurdity and appreciating the minutia of regular day-to-day life. Like this, it isn't dress rehearsal. It's not like a series of milestones. Like we're living life right now. Like this is literally it.
Exactly.
So, might as well have some fun along the way.
Exactly right.
Right.
Showtime, baby. I love it.
Places, everybody. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So
this is so
we
fun.
did too. What a blast. It's so nice to chat with like-minded people who just like get all the little nuances of pop culture. It really is amazing. And what a blast.
Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure, they can find us bijouscandles.com. It's BIJOU at Bijou Candles on Instagram and TikTok. And
YouTube.
The Candle Coven Podcast on YouTube and anywhere you can get podcasts.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for this week. If you like Nicstalgia, connect with me on social at Nicole Tremaglio. Subscribe to the Nicstalgia newsletter at nicstalgia.substack.com and follow, rate, and review on your platform of choice. Everything's linked in the show notes, including where to find out more about our guest of the week. Thank you so much for your support, and that was this week's episode of Nicstalgia.